It's time for another edition of Out and About with Jamie Grout, and my interview guest today is with Ann Harris, president of Grinnell College. But first, a word from our sponsors, including Grinnell State Bank. If you go to their webpage, they'll suggest that you let your money do the work for you and learn more with Simply Savings at Grinnell State Bank. Low minimums, no lengthy requirements, easy access to your money. Grinnell State Bank with locations not only in Grinnell, but in Johnston, Marengo, and Polk City. They also have convenient online and mobile banking services available at Grinnell State Bank. And also Alicia and Corey Blankenfeld and the whole crew at Total Choice Shipping and Printing. And if you go to their Facebook page, you could say that they're expecting many additional returns as Amazon Prime Day packages start to arrive. They say, please take the time to watch their refresher video so your return process is as seamless as possible. As always, they appreciate your choosing Total Choice Shipping and Printing. It's time for another edition of Out and About with Jamie Grout, and this time around, we're talking to Grinnell College President Ann Harris. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your busy schedule to chat with me today.
Jamie, it's an absolute pleasure.
Well, I got to tell you, the main reason I wanted to talk to you is because I am a regular at Perkins in Newton. There are two waitresses there. One of them is Ari, and the other is Natalie. Natalie is from Fresno, and Natalie is from Minot, North Dakota. So I asked Natalie, because I was getting this podcast started, who I should talk to, and she said, talk to Ann Harris, because she apparently is in a choir here at Grinnell College. And she said that they were going to take a trip somewhere and the funding wasn't there, but you came through for them. So she was singing your praises, and I wanted to talk to you because you seem like a big-hearted lady.
Well, and to have one's praises sung by a choir member is the greatest honor, truly the greatest honor. Yes, I think that ability to reach out to each other and to solve problems together, and then to look at long-term solutions. That was a short-term solution for the spring, and I was so happy it was able to work out.
That's fantastic. Let's talk about your background a little bit and how you came to be president of Grinnell College.
Oh, how marvelous. I started out as a faculty member. Taught for 20 years, various places in the Midwest, but most recently DePauw University with a W in Greencastle, Indiana. And then moved into administration quite suddenly. You had a president who said, this is what he said. He said, every time there's a problem, somebody sends you in there. So here's some things that you can deal with, all of academic affairs. And I found that I loved the administrative work. It's advocacy work. It's advocacy for education. And I've got a long history. If we want to talk about my, biographical background with my father and the GI Bill and so forth, I'm a real believer in the transformative power of education. So once you move into administration, you start to get noticed a lot more than when you're a faculty member. I was a faculty member in medieval art history. So I taught castles and cathedrals.
Wow.
But not a lot of people are recruiting for those, right?
Huzzah!
Huzzah! Oh, how marvelous. And actually, being a medievalist has informed a lot of my work in terms of thinking about what we value, what lasts over time, and so forth. So then I was recruited to apply for the deanship at Grinnell, and I did start out as the dean of the college in the fall of 2019. Then President Raynard Kington announced he was leaving for Andover, and so a search began. And I had not thought in the beginning of putting myself forward, but I found out I'd been nominated, and then the pandemic hit. And I will tell you the very moment I was in Herrick Chapel with all the students, faculty, staff, we were getting ready to make this massive transition. It was spring break. We had to say, if you leave, you leave. If you stay, you stay. We didn't know what was going to happen in March of 2020. And in that moment, I said in my heart, I so believe in this institution. I truly love Grinnell. I'm going to say yes and put my hat in the ring, as the saying goes. And then I was nominated and became president. So inaugurated in 2022, but became president July 14th in 2020.
Well, congratulations on that.
Thank you.
Grinnell College has been referred to as the Harvard of the Midwest. Maybe out at Harvard they call it the Grinnell College of the East. I don't know. But how did Grinnell College earn that title anyway?
What a great question. And I love that Harvard could consider itself the Grinnell of the East. I think that's brilliant.
By the way, I've been to Harvard.
Is that?
Yeah.
Yes.
My sister lived in Cambridge, and I walked through the campus once. So
it is like walking in history. It really
it is beautiful.
It really is beautiful.
But anyway, I don't mean to interrupt.
No, not at all. No. And in fact, you'll see some of our residence halls, if you walk around campus, have that kind of Harvard
Mhm.
or Neo-Gothic. This is the medieval part, right?
Right.
The Neo-Gothic feel. It feels like an old castle in some ways. So I will say Grinnell's place in higher ed is hard won. And there's so much courage to this institution. You have to think 1846. You've got, in fact, from Andover Theological Seminary, you've got all these Northeastern Congregationalist abolitionists making their way west, first in Davenport and then all the way to Grinnell. And then you combine that kind of courage to create not a utopia, but a new world with J.B. Grinnell and his vision, his abolitionist vision as well. And then you get this town of Grinnell. And I love this. He was very modern at the time, right? At the intersection of not rivers, but two railroads. And so you've got this community that from the start has, its mission is to serve the common good. And what I really appreciate about Grinnell is how it reinvents that. So to my mind, there's clarity of purpose, and then it brings academic excellence to fulfill that purpose. So you do that over time. You do that since 1846. You're going to build and build and build. And then Grinnell just never stops, right? Grinnell keeps going all the time. So now you've got global Grinnell. 20% of our students are international students. We have a 4% admit rate for our international students. That is unbelievably competitive. At this point, it's a 12% admit rate for our domestic students, meaning from all the United States. But I think the real secret here is not so much those numbers. It's the fact that we have students this year from 47 of our 50 states. We're missing Wyoming, Delaware, and Vermont. And then we have students from, I think it's 65 countries this year. We have 72 languages spoken at the college. And when you bring, again, it's conditions of possibility, clarity of purpose, academic excellence, and all those different experiences in one space, you're going to shine a light from the prairie. You're going to get noticed because something incredible is happening here. And you see that in the research, you see that in the grants that we get, you see that in the innovation that our students and our alums do, and so forth. So that's the short version.
Okay, great, Ann. Now, getting back to the waitress friends of mine who go to Grinnell College, they came here on scholarship from Grinnell College.
Yes.
How many scholarships does Grinnell College usually give out every year?
Well, 95% of our students receive some kind of financial aid.
Okay.
So, and our financial aid budget was $77 million this year. So Grinnell has long believed in college access, has a large number of first generation students. In fact, there's an organized group of FGLI, first generation low income. This is the industry name for students who are coming into a college setting for the first time in their family. And of that $77 million budget, 85% is for need-based aid. So this goes directly into families who could not otherwise afford Grinnell. And then 15%, a smaller, much smaller percentage, is for merit-based aid. So students who can afford Grinnell and who also receive merit to then come to the institution. So that's how we all come together. So it's 95% of our students. We have 1,700 students. So everyone is really invested in by the college.
All right. Okay, let's talk about community support. Grinnell College, very involved in Grinnell and in surrounding towns and all over the nation as far as that's concerned.
Yes. I mean, we share a name and so much more, right? I love that Grinnell College is in Grinnell, Iowa. I love that connection. And I will say from the fall of 19 and then spring of 2020, I remember doing a ribbon cutting with Rachel Kinnick, the Grinnell Area Chamber of Commerce. And we were sitting there with masks on outside, but we were still going to cut that ribbon together. So that's a ceremonial moment, but it really speaks to the interconnectedness. So the most palpable, visible way that you can see that is in what came to be called, before I even got here, came to be called the zone of confluence. It sounds almost like science fiction, but the zone of confluence is basically where college meets community. So here in town, it's right there on 6th Avenue, and then it goes into Broad and Main. And you see a great deal of investment from the college in the community directly. And then you've got several programs and actually a very big initiative that we're just starting now, actually that really kicked off yesterday in downtown. So the things like programs I want to cite are dining dollars. This is the ability for our students to apply their meal plans into downtown restaurants. And I just found out actually in preparing for our time together that was a student initiative.
That's great.
Caroline Cassidy, class of 25, who's going to graduate this year or next year, just put that together. So I think that's an indicator right there that we want vitality. it's not just economic vitality, it's also neighborly vitality, seeing each other, like your conversation at Perkins. It's just so perfect, so perfect. Then the big statement we're making here is in doing something very unusual for a college, which is to establish our student residence hall downtown.
Mm-hmm.
So this is now, I'm going to say, the famous Renfro Hall.
Mm-hmm.
And that dedication, which happened a couple of Saturdays ago, was absolutely beautiful for how many Grinnell, Iowa community members came, celebrated. Mrs. Edith Renfro Smith is the first Black alumna of Grinnell. She graduated in 1937, and she was there having celebrated her 110th birthday this summer. Just incredible.
Yeah, there's a mural in downtown
Yes,
Grinnell of her. I did a podcast with Monica.
Oh, marvelous.
From the Center for Arts and talked about that. She sounds like quite a lady.
Quite a lady,
Yeah.
right? And herself really living out Grinnell's values as a graduate in terms of serving the common good. She was in education in Chicago for over 80 years. For her to come back, for her family to gather from all over the United States, for people to come. And so the idea of this building, of this residence hall, it's not just a dorm, right? It's actually apartment style living for probably it'll be third and fourth year students. We had over 200 applicants for 110 beds.
Wow.
All of those applicants wrote essays talking about their vision of community service, community engagement. So you've got 110 students committed to community engagement. It's not 110 projects. They're all going to be working together in different ways. But we thought, let's create not just the economic vitality of student presence in downtown, but also this community vitality of young people who want to work with the community, who don't want to just come out and say, this is what's needed, but say, what is needed? And here's what we bring. And what do you have? And here's what's happening. It could be my home country, my home state. What's happening here? That kind of exchange. So I really want to highlight on the south side of the residence hall, the Weingart Civic Innovation Pavilion. And you can Google that, or you can just look up, I think I've got the web address, just grinnell.edu/CIP,
Okay.
Civic Innovation Pavilion. That'll be open to the public by registration of events and things like that. There's a whole system that they've worked out, but that's the actual space where college and community meet to solve the problems we can only solve together. What about rural mental health or food scarcity or community building, or as they say, placemaking now?
Mm-hmm.
So what I love about the architecture, you'll see too, it's got a lot of visibility, a lot of windows. It is important to me that we see ourselves at work for our community.
Well, and that's very important, and you can certainly see that. You have so many things going. What about the Catherine Howell Wingart
Yes.
61 Civic Innovation Pavilion?
Yes, let me go deeper into that.
Please tell me more about
that. And I really welcome your visiting that space. Our students just moved into the residence hall yesterday. So and it is a nice long title, so we shorten it to the Weingart Civic Innovation Pavilion. And it is going to be separate from the rest of the residence hall. So it's a Civic Innovation Pavilion within a residence hall. Weingart within Renfro is how we think of it. And the design for that space came from the architects coming to town as early as 2020, having multiple open sessions with Grinnell, Iowa community members. And one of the things that came up was, we wish there was a Central Park all year round. So Central Park is a vital heart of the Grinnell, Iowa community. Our bagpipe band plays there. Our concerts are there. The Homecoming King and Queen are announced there.
I know. I just did a live stream of the Homecoming King and Queen ceremonies from down there.
Isn't it crazy?
Oh, it is fantastic. And I can't wait for Christmas to get here at Central Park.
So you really understand it, right?
Oh, yeah.
That Central Park is vital, but we know at some point it gets too cold to do anything but Jingle Bell Holiday or anything like that. And then the winters are long, right? And we have students from everywhere, and people come to Grinnell from everywhere. So what is really unusual about this Civic Innovation Pavilion is that it actually thinks about the environment. It's not just a rectangular space with a bunch of chairs. It actually has this indoor garden that is supposed to bring warmth and some wintertime joy. It also brings springtime joy, but you can get that greenery elsewhere. And I learned a new word in all of this, biophilic, meaning, basically how we love nature and how nature loves us. And I'm pausing on this because it's to highlight the intentionality of that Weingart Civic Innovation Pavilion. It is where people are supposed to come together and feel cared for. where people are come together and feel curiosity, right? I mean, there are going to be all these beautiful indigenous plants to the region, right? Prairie plants and so forth that are going to be kept there. There's even just outside the pavilion, there's a 2-story green wall. And again, these things, they might sound decorative, but they set a tone. They set a mood. And that tone and that mood is, let's come together, let's gather, let's be well together. And then after that, I really didn't want to overscript the space. So it'll be up to the students and community members to say, are we going to talk about organizing a quilt show? Are we going to talk about doing a celebration? Are we going to talk about, as I mentioned, earlier, rural mental health? Are we going to talk about are we going to talk about voting, right? All these different issues. Build a Better Grinnell is this marvelous college and community partnership. I think it's over 17 organizations, including the college. And we got a big USDA grant to do it, which made me very, very proud. We were the only ones to get a rural placemaking grant to do Build a Better Grinnell. So that's civic planning for the community as well. So it's a site that is very clear in its welcome and then very open in its discussions and its conversations. It's a very experimental space.
And tell us about bucket courses.
Oh, aren't those great? Those are great. I know that the name I understand to mean.
Yeah, where does that come from?
I think the name definitely preceded me, but I think it's, before one kicks the proverbial bucket, one might want to explore these topics. So this is the Drake Family Community Library. It's an absolutely marvelous thing that we partner with. We have lots of different partnerships to make this happen as well. They're free educational programs. They're held Wednesdays from 10 to 11:30. They are open to all. There are delicious cookies and lemonade. And I gave one on medieval art. Oh, right. Okay. So that's what I used to teach. Sure. So I gave one on medieval art. We had a marvelous, marvelous time. I see that coming up on the 23rd, our vice president for admissions, Joe Bagnoli, will be talking about Grinnell College admissions, building success and shaping the future. And I think that's a great thing. That's an inside look in how college admissions work, which can be a little daunting, when we look at all these numbers and so forth and all the competition across the land. And then we have Dr. Paulson, Protecting Our Night's Sky. That'll be October 30th. It says details pending, so maybe more things are to come. But I think that's a real sign of, we like to celebrate together in Grinnell, Iowa. We like to think together, and I have seen us problem solve together. I mean, look at us during the pandemic, right? The partnership between the college and the hospital, the college and the city, of course, the city and it was just incredible. And let alone the derecho that also happened in 2020. So I'm glad you brought that up, because those bucket courses are a real sign of how we like to think together. And let me tell you, the questions from that audience are terrific. Right? People are eager to learn, and I always learn when I'm in those spaces. Actually, I can't wait to do another bucket course.
Let's talk about extracurricular activities for Grinnell College. I hear much about your sports teams, and maybe we can talk about that and whatever else extracurricular wise we could discuss today.
So one thing I want to establish is that all events, all extracurricular events, be those athletics, be those the arts, be those speakers, are all free and open to the public.
Oh, that's great.
So, and you never have to worry about parking.
Yeah. Someone told me the other day, Grinnell College doesn't really charge for anything.
No.
I mean, that's a great thing about coming here.
Yeah. And that's a commitment. That's a real commitment to the community. I think we're always working to open the doors, ever wider. So Tilly Woodard over in the Grinnell College Museum of Art, which is celebrating its 25th anniversary. I think that's terrific. She'll open the door. She's got lots and lots of school programs that come through there and so forth. So I would really highlight the Museum of Art. It's a good space to go. I don't know the schedule, but I believe it's at the noon hour. There's often yoga in the museum. I got to get over there someday. But then I'm glad you brought up our athletics team as well. That's always a vibrant, wonderful thing. And I will say, I meet all of our new employees who come at their orientation, and I'll say, come be a part of the joy of the college, right? I mean, a lot of the time we are busy understanding proteins and poetry and polling charts and so forth, all the academic work that we do. But there's nothing more joyful than watching students cheer each other on. That, to me, it revitalizes me, it replenishes me, applauding for students when they're singing, wishing them well, when they're going on their choir trips and so forth. So I will highlight that, yes, we're getting close to ending our football season. And then we're going to start our basketball season.
Yeah.
And they're fun to watch.
I know. That's what I hear. especially like from the 3-point range
Yes,
and all that.
yes.
Man, fantastic.
They have an excellent t-shirt. This is the men's basketball team who do train themselves very well to shoot those 3-pointers. And the t-shirt simply says 3 is greater than 2.
Oh, I love it.
But they have a really good time. And that, I think, I'm investing a good deal of my energies in promoting spectatorship. So just coming out, be we faculty or staff or students coming out and again, cheering each other on. And the team's about 25% by the time they graduate, but 50% of our students, they're all involved in athletics, they're involved in the arts and so forth. Our theater program is phenomenal, very experimental, doing all sorts of new things. I went to a performance a couple of years ago where it was always an audience of one. Oh. Can you imagine? And so the play lasted about something like 7 minutes, and it was one person at a time that would go through. It was wild. It was so fascinating.
Wow.
Isn't that great? So they're always doing something new there. And then I would very much highlight our music program as well. Just beautiful space. And nothing lifts you like song. And I'll tell you a little something that happens at Grinnell that I just adore. The very last day of classes, so right before we start our exams, at noon, there is the Hallelujah Chorus that is sung in Bucksbaum, the open space in Bucksbaum. And everybody just hands out the music. It doesn't matter if you can sing or not. And then people bring out instruments, and it's hallelujah. It's the last day of classes. And it's so joyful. And there's wit in there, and there's just great. And then at the end, there's this rousing cheer. And then everybody wishes everybody else good luck on exams. Wow. And off we go. So what I would want your listeners to know is that everything is open. You can go to the Grinnell. If you Google Grinnell College calendar, you can see a listing every single day of all of our events. And I'm always gladdened when I see community members at our events. It's a great thing.
And if a parent listening today is interested in sending their youngster to Grinnell College,
yes,
maybe looking into scholarships and whatnot, what steps do they need to take?
So I would contact our admissions office. Very easy to find on our website. Very easy to explore all the different options.
And that website again?
Just Grinnell, GRINNELL.edu, Grinnell.edu. And you can start exploring, and you'll see Grinnell has, if these are Iowa parents, for example, lots of scholarships for Iowa students. We have something called the Founders Scholarship and so forth. Grinnell also meets 100% of demonstrated need. Very few institutions do that, meaning whatever the FAFSA forms, the government forms tell you you can afford, Grinnell will meet 100% of that.
Wow.
Need. All right. And then the other thing we do that truly very few institutions do, but this was very important to me, this is one of my initiatives, is that most colleges will package financial aid, will package a loan in their financial aid. So you may get a scholarship, but you're also asked to take out a loan. Mm-hmm. We are a no loan institution.
Wow.
So you do not have to take out a loan when you get financial aid from us. And that means you are on a path to graduate debt free. I know student loans are a big issue
you hear
with
about
higher
that.
Education. You hear about it all the time. And so if a family takes out a loan, it is maybe there's something going on, buying a new house or something like that. And there's reasons to do that, but it is not because Grinnell College has asked you to take out a loan. We are a no loan institution. So this is really us using our resources for what we deeply believe in, which since 1846 has been college access, bringing people together from as many different places. And so you've got, you know what, during the pandemic, I used to say to people, well, we've got to design a pandemic program for students from Brooklyn, Iowa, Brooklyn, New York. And then I found out there's a Brooklyn, New Zealand. So
how about that?
But that's Grinnell from all over.
So Grinnell College, I mean, without a doubt, one of the best educational institutions in the country. What is your vision for the future for Grinnell College? How can you improve on something that is already great?
Wow, that's fantastic. Thank you for that. And this is an ambition that I share with the absolutely excellent faculty here at Grinnell and with the absolutely dedicated staff who are here at Grinnell. So our strategic plan is called Knowledge into Action. It carries us through 2030, and it really seeks to make those bridge connections between what we're learning in the classroom and the world that we're going to shape, right? The communities that our students, our graduates will be a part of. So community engagement is my vision for Grinnell College, to really be a model for the nation of how a small community that is face to face with each other, that meets in a civic innovation pavilion, that votes together, even if they don't vote the same way, that eats together, celebrates together, can really be that model for a community that is engaged in a holistic way as full human beings for the common good, right, that we serve. So I will say, how does community engagement manifest itself? Sometimes it is problem solving. Sometimes it is making things better in the community. Mm-hmm. So for Grinnell, that has meant some problem solving around, we were part of the sponsors for the maternity wing in the hospital, or it can be a music school, or it can be getting more mental health resources. And so that's my vision for this institution, is that students come here, faculty come here knowing that what they're learning is going to make the world a better place. And we build those bridges. The last thing I'll say on that is our students, of course, they take classes, but they take what they learn there out into their research, out into their global study. Mm-hmm. We send students all over the world, and we bring in students from all over the world, and also in their internships, and then, of course, in our community engagement programs. So that's my vision, that Grinnell makes the world a better place.
You've had some famous people come here. I know one of Martin Luther King's daughters came to school here at Grinnell College.
Wow.
And you're going to have to help me with this. Okay. But he's a comedian, and he was on Jimmy Kimmel here maybe about a month ago, and he went to Grinnell College.
Yes.
And he's doing a stand-up tour, and he talked about doing his first stand-up at a coffee house in Grinnell, Iowa, when he was going to Grinnell College. Yep. Help me with this.
Kumail Nanjiani.
There you go.
Yeah,
yes.
He is absolutely amazing. I wish his graduation year is, I think, in the aughts at some point, but he is a glad and warm and marvelous person. He gave a beautiful commencement speech. Mm-hmm. And you can, I think if you look it up on YouTube and so forth, you can find it with his name. But he has this beautiful line where he says, "Before America was my home, Grinnell was my home." And so his own background, his own journey is just absolutely phenomenal. And then, you talk about putting good into the universe. And I think the Marvel Comics universe, right? I mean, he's a superhero at times as well. But just, I hope I got that right. If it's Marvel or the other franchise, but just somebody who shines a light, and you see that in so many of our Grinnell alums. But I would say he's, Gary Cooper is another alum for those who watched earlier movies as well.
Okay.
Yep. I don't know that he went all 4 years, but he's considered an alum, as many are. And
if I ever watch High Noon, I will think of Grinnell College.
Perfect. Well, and then I really do also want to highlight Herbie Hancock, the famous jazz musician who came to Grinnell because of Mrs. Edith Renfro Smith. She was in the same Chicago neighborhood that they lived in. And she said, you should think about this marvelous place. So every time I hear Cantaloupe Island, which I recommend to listen, my heart gladdens every time.
As we get ready to wrap up our talk today, what makes you most proud to be president of Grinnell College?
Oh, wow. The people.
Mm-hmm.
The people that makes me most proud. The marvel of so many, and I'm going to say courageous people coming here. Grinnell is off the beaten path, right? We are right up there in our rankings and our prowess. We are right up there with the most praised schools of the Northeast, which is, the Harvards and so forth. We really are right up there with them. But we're out here doing this work in community in Grinnell, Iowa. So I am proud of the people. If you're at Grinnell, you've already shown the courage of your convictions to come to a place, not because of its prestige, but because of what it stands for. And you bring your experiences, your passions, your ambitions, and we see it every single day. We see it in the programs you and I have talked about today. We see it every time there's an artistic or athletic event. But that is what makes me most proud. That is why I will so often walk around campus. That is my why, are the people.
That's great. Anything else you want to add before we wrap up today, Ann?
Just how very glad I am that you and I had this conversation. Yes. How very glad I am for the media to connect us all. You are a community builder, so it's just my thanks.
Well, thank you very much. Our interview guest has been the president of Grinnell College, Ann Harris, on Out and About with Jamie Grout. You can catch the video of this, the shortcast, a 5-minute shortcast on outandaboutwithjamiegrout.com. Until next time, Grout is out. See ya.